Today's video we're going to build a Lego table. This is the current setup for one of my boys' Legos. They don't have a lot right now, but it is kept in a Tupperware container, and it is a pain to pull things out and put things back in. And usually me and my wife are in there picking up the Legos and throwing them back in there and looking for all the parts. So it's okay, but as our Lego collection grows, this won't be good enough. And this is my other son that has Legos, and this is usually how we find them. All over the place. Good stepping on them, doesn't feel great. Throwing them back in the Tupperware. Which, like I said, right now it's not that big a deal because they don't have a lot of Legos. But as their Lego collection grows, this is going to be an issue. And it's one more thing. So we want to make a table to where they can play with their Legos and they can store them, and we don't have to keep putting them away and take them out and putting them away. So this is what we come up with. The first idea that I had was a Lego table that splits in the middle, and each side will open up. One to the left, one to the right, based on full extension slides like this. I didn't go with this one because of the fear of a finger getting caught in between the two pieces, as well as it's about 20 some inches that they got to reach over into that center bucket, and so that wouldn't be that great. Plus, if they build something big, you can't, span that gap very easily. So then I thought, well, let's do one without any slides, but still have that center trough. That way they can each grab at it equally both sides, but it still makes it tough reaching little arms reaching that far. As well as if they wanted to build something large, they wouldn't be able to span that gap. So I thought, well, I like the trough idea, but not where that is. So once again, I think we could do better. So this is the design I think we're going to go with, this next slide here. You still have the full area to build on. You have that trough, which is storage, which is great. Both can reach it. They can walk around to that end and get things out of they want, and then move over and build. And if they wanted to build something that spanned more than two of those brick plates, they could reach that, make something big or have roads or whatever to build whole things. They have a larger playing surface. Now that trough isn't very big, and their Lego collection is not that large, but I thought, well, if it does grow, I could always do cutouts and put in these little boxes or Tupperware that would store down, and they could reach into there and pull those out. Plus, you could pull those out and dump them onto the Lego table. So I think that's what we're going to go with, and that'll be a good start. So this is what we're going to stick with. Now when building a Lego table, you have to know that the plates are sold as 10 inches by 10 inches. And if you measure that, you'll realize that each of these plates are not 10 inches. This one here is actually 10 and a 16th. So if you just took for where the manufacturer's marking on the package, you'd be hurting. So what you need to do is you need to take those plates, as many you're going to have, and line those up to get the exact measurement. And this is really, it's going to help you make for a better table and less frustration later. So just line all four of those, scribe a line, get that out of the way, get the tape measure, and measure over. And now you'll know what exactly that dimension is for the playing surface to cut down the MDF, which is what that is for the tabletop. So then we need to also cut the frame for this. This is just a 1x8 poplar. I think I got this from Menards, very home store. The plans will have all these dimensions in here. So you're just going to rip that down. Common boards there. It's all going to be painted. Just nice, smooth speed, pushing that through. it over to get rid of the burn marks. Ooh, careful. Now we're moving this over and we're going to cut for the legs. The legs are sandwiched 2 pieces of the poplar cut, and then we'll glue those together. It's amazing to watch this and you see how that board just splits the tension in that board. My table saw does not have a riving knife, which would be a great thing to have if you were buying a new table saw, to have a riving knife for that reason. See the tension in the board. As it comes toward the roller, it's pinched together, but then the gap. So poplar is pretty forgiving in this manner. It's pretty easy to work with. As you can see, we're very well prepared for this. And you'll do that for the pieces for the legs. Next, we're going to cut the legs for the table. I have a stop block attached to the fence so the legs are not pinched when you're moving that through the blade. So all those are the consistent length. Once the legs are cut, then you're going to take them over and glue them up. Join the 2 pieces together, glue on both sides, put them in the clamps. The trick that I have is to put the blue tape on the clamps. That way when you squeeze everything together, you don't get any squeeze out onto the clamps to gum up the teeth. So those are all glued up, put them in the clamps, make sure that everything's even. Apply even pressure across the boards. Just enough squeeze to get some glue squeeze out over all those. And then once those are cured, then you take it to the jointer, clean up that glue, even up the boards if there's any misalignment. A few passes to the jointer will take you right where it needs to be. Gotta love the sound of a joint. There we go. Ready to square it up over at the table saw. Just put that fresh jointed face against the fence. Run that through to get the rest of that glue off. And now just to make sure, in case there's any inconsistencies from the jointing, then you turn it 90 degrees, or 270, or 90, or 270. And run that through just to make sure the square legs are perfectly square all the way around. You'll do that for all 4 legs. Once the legs are done, you're going to work on the table sides. Just lining up the miters. Once you get the one side, you'll flip it over. And you'll make a good mark for the other side. You're just going to get only one shot at this. You go a little bit longer, just make sure you're right on that table, on that line. Just run that through. You'll do this for all 4 sides of the table, getting those miters just right so you have a square table. This is a side view of the table. You can see the first arrow on the right. That dimension from the bottom of the table to the bottom of the tray is the same as the top of the table to the top of the tabletop. So when you go to the next step, which is the potato stack, as you run those through, you'll just be able to switch one for the other, turn it around, and it'll be the same setup. of the table, and we have by the red arrow show that we have 2 stop dados. Now the nice thing is that it's the same, the dados are the same distance from the fence, so that's not a problem, but we do need to mark the beginning of the blade on the fence so we know where to start and stop the piece so it ends right where it should for the stop date to be measured properly. Here I'm doing just that by getting a square to where the blade just touches the square, that I know where the cut will start. I'll just mark that with a Sharpie. And off camera I do it to the back side of the blade because based on the pieces you have to push one in and lift up, and then the other one you have to drop on and then push through. So here we're just finally marking that up, and then you'll see in this next section of how we push it through and stop on time. So using the ends of the face frame that I know are the right length of the dado because the tabletop surface is square, I line those up on one end, coming down, nice elbow in the way, you see what I'm doing there, but I'm marking the end of that dado so I know exactly where to end the dado. Just double check and make sure everything's lined up, and then I'll have to transfer that line over to the other side of that board since the part that I'm measuring will be face down on the table saw. Show a case of good planning because the distance from the bottom of the table frame to the bottom of the tray is the same distance as the top of the table frame to the top of the tabletop. So making the divider of the two, all I have to do is run one through and then flip it over and then run it through again with the offset being equal. That way I don't need to move the fence. It's a lot faster setting up and executing the cuts. That makes for an easier way to build. To complete the stop dado, you've got to square off that cut, and that's one of the downfalls of using the dado stack to do the stop dado. Now you could use a router table on a bit and then just square off the corners. That's another way. I just didn't want to set up the router table for this since I already had the dado set to go. So here you just see me making world record speeds of chiseling out the dado to the stop dado. With the dados cut and the miners cut, now we can do the first dry assembly to see if we measure everything. So we're back to the Lego plates, laying those out right in the corner after getting the clamp to hold temporarily to see hopefully you did it right. Yes. There we go. And ready for assembly. With this being so large, it does have to sit on the floor to be able to reach everything. So just slide the top into the dado, the bottom into the side, just grab the other side, place it on there, I just pre-drilled and countersunk the holes, and then I'll just drive some screws in there to hold. Back to the table saw. This time we're cutting the tray. So once the fence is set up, just run it through. Easy peasy. And now that the table is all assembled, time to add the legs. Just square them up, clamp them in place. Pre-drill, drive some screws, all 4. The top will be painted, so the screw holes need to be covered up. So here we're just cutting some plugs with a plug cutter. These are great little inventions, especially since you're gonna paint this. You don't need to line up the grain, but the best thing about doing these versus a dowel is that with a dowel, when you cut the dowel off, you're actually showing the end grain of the wood instead of the face grain. So if you were going to stain this, doing it this way, you can line up the grain of the plug to the piece, hopefully hiding the location to make it a seamless look. And the tape here is just to keep the plugs, if you run it through the bandsaw, so they don't fall off everywhere. You'll see what a great job I did on that one. As an afterthought, I thought I would put in a cross member here just for an extra support. Pulling that tight to the legs to get a straight cut. Mark the board there. You want to know what the dimension of that piece is from one end to the other? I don't know. and I don't care. It just doesn't matter, as long as it fits. To attach the cross member to the table, I'm just using pocket holes. This is the K5 from Craig. There will be a Amazon affiliate link below the video if you need to purchase one of these. These are great tools. Just clamp it down. One screw on each end should do it. Just drive it in. You can see a great video there shot to my shoulder. I'm sure you can see that. But the exact, I'm just eyeballing this on the center board. Doesn't have exact one screw to hold it in place on each end. It's not going to give a whole lot of movement side to side, just to hold it in place. Roll it in, glue the chips, ready to go. Alright, so table's assembled, screws are driven. Now we're just using those plugs that I cut to fill in the screw holes. And you always want to make more plugs than necessary. You never know what's going to happen. You just kind of squeeze that in there, a little tap on the hammer. And that's why you make extras. But you just hammer that in, let it dry for over probably a few hours, overnight maybe. Come back and flush trim it. Good to go. I highly recommend getting one of these flush trim saws if you don't have one. Once again, there will be an affiliate link below the video here. But it is marked on one side. It says this side out. But it's a great tool. And there's no really set to the teeth, just one way I guess. And you just cut that and then you'll just sand it flush. And it makes really quick work, especially if you're going to paint the piece. Once you paint this, you'll never know where those holes were. It's a great way to hide the fasteners. Once you paint the table, you're ready to glue down the Lego plates. Just tape them down, some masking to protect the table from the glue. Using the spray adhesive, Super 77 I think. Very important that the surface is completely clean, no dust at all, no pieces of wood anywhere, because that will translate through the Lego plates when you put those down. So you just want to spray that on there. Once it's tacky, dry to the touch, then you're ready to lay them out. And laying this first one out is very important. The first one's the most important. Making sure it's tight in the corner on both ends, starting in that corner, laying it down, and then slowly rolling the plate away in toward the center to get a good flat adhesion. But you only get one chance at this with the Super 77s. You can't really pull it up. I didn't try. I just went really slow. Let's get the first one, and then each one is very important. This is where a good layout, dry assembly is crucial to make sure that the table's square, that everything's going to fit. Just want to make sure that this is difficult because you have to line up the plate is flush, plus top to bottom, all those pegs will line up. And so you need to be really careful with that. And I like to grab a couple of the Lego bricks to put those on there for alignment. It doesn't really help now that I already laid it down, but as you're laying it down, putting those bricks down helps keep it aligned as you move one to the other. You probably could lift it up as you go, but and then J-roller, each time you put one down just to make sure if there's any air bubbles, just squeeze those out. And if you did a good job with the first one or two, and then just keep it the same system, you should be good for the rest of them. There we are, all done. So a few final thoughts I have on the Lego table build is it turned out pretty well. One thing that I think I would do differently is the glue for the Lego pad squares things. I used spray adhesive, 77 kind of spray adhesive, where you spray both on the back of the plates and on the surface, and then when they get dry and tacky, stick together, that gives you almost zero time to move it around. So you have to really put exactly where you want it right away. I think if I did this again, or if I would instruct someone, I would probably say that maybe thinking of using like epoxy that gives you a longer set time. That way you can put all the plates down and kind of jostle and make sure that all of the bricks, some bricks are really easy to put down, not a problem. Some are a little more challenging. But I found that with some Legos, sometimes they come apart really easy. Some of them are kind of hard to get away. So I think that's probably within the tolerances that they have. But I think it's going to be a great place for them to play. Anyway, the trough is pretty good size. I mean, that's a lot of area for Lego blocks. We don't have a ton. I'm sure the collection will grow as the boys get older and collect more toys and more Legos and more presents. But it's great to have this wide surface because I can, like I showed at the beginning of the videos, put a recessed trough here, a hole to put a bucket down in there. And then you can organize those if you wanted to, on, wheels or colors or, whatever you could do for there. And then probably the big thing that I would change differently, the biggest change, is that I would have put some sort of drawer, and I still might do this down the road, underneath on the sides, one of the sides, a drawer that pulls out, where you can store all the instruction videos, because all the Lego things that you build, or not videos, instruction booklets. So just about everything they have has a booklet that shows how to build whatever, but have those in one place that they can easily pull out if they want to make whatever they're making, and then store that right away, out of the way, underneath, but close to the Lego table. Well, that's pretty much it. I'm pretty happy with this. The boys are going to get this tomorrow. They're pretty excited for it. My oldest kind of snuck out here and saw it, so he was like, "What is that?" So he's pretty excited for it. If you like the video, please hit the subscribe at the button at the bottom. And I will have plans for this available on my Etsy store as well as on my personal website that you can go to and download on there. All the tools that I use will be Amazon affiliate links. Once again, also below the video. Clicking on those, it doesn't cost you any more money, but I do get a very, very small kickback toward me for sending you toward Amazon to buy those tools. And that just helps make more plans and more things that you could buy and build and for yourself. So hope you enjoyed the video, and like always, keep building.